November 9th, 1989. This date is etched forever in history as a point of no return. The seemingly impenetrable symbol of the Cold War, the Berlin Wall, collapsed. But how? Was it a meticulously planned revolution? A stroke of brilliant diplomacy? Or was it a fluke? Today we dive deep into the heart of this event. We'll uncover how one official's accidental remark, coupled with the will of thousands, triggered a chain reaction that not only reunified Germany, but effectively ended the Cold War. This is the story of how the solid melts into air, and how history is made not just in backrooms, but on the streets, and sometimes thanks to a single mistake.
Imagine a city split in two by a concrete monster. On one side, the capitalist West. On the other, the socialist East. Between them, the Berlin Wall. Erected in 1961, it became the embodiment of the Cold War, dividing not just Berlin, but the entire world into two opposing camps. For East Germany, the Socialist Unity Party, the SED, the wall was a necessity. They feared economic collapse after the flight of 3.5 million citizens to the West since 1949. The wall was their anti-fascist protection rampart, designed to stop the brain drain and the loss of manpower. But for millions of Berliners, for all of Eastern Europe, the wall became a symbol of oppression, a nightmare that separated families, friends, and lovers. It represented the inhumanity of the regime, though for the West, it was a convenient position, a symbol of evil communism, easily exploited in political rhetoric. But times were changing. In 1985, Mikhail Gorbachev rose to power in the Soviet Union. His policies of perestroika and glasnost began to loosen the SED's grip on Eastern Europe. The Kremlin was stepping back, empowering people to reclaim what had been suppressed for decades. All across Eastern Europe, waves of protest erupted. Hungary opened its border with Austria, becoming a fulcrum for thousands of East Germans seeking passage. People sought escape routes through Czechoslovakia or via the West German embassies. The GDR's economy teetered on the brink, and the people demanded change. On October 18, 1989, Erich Honecker, after years in power, stepped down. Egon Krenz took his place, promising reforms, but the people didn't trust him. On November 4th, Alexanderplatz in Berlin hosted the largest demonstration in GDR history. Nearly 1 million people demanded freedom. And then, the evening of November 9th, 1989. An ordinary press conference, it seemed. Before Günter Schabowski, a member of the SED Politburo, lay a press release detailing new travel regulations for GDR citizens. The intention was to ease restrictions, not to open the borders completely. Schabowski, not fully briefed on all the details, began to read the document. And then came the question that would enter history. When does this take effect? And then, the moment of truth. Schabowski, perhaps trying to appear informed, but failing to check the facts, made his fateful remark. As far as I know, it takes effect immediately, without delay. This was merely his personal assumption, based on a note handed to him just before the conference. In reality, the regulations were meant to take effect the next day with specific procedures, but the words were spoken. Words broadcast live across the nation.
The news spread like wildfire. Borders are open, screamed the headlines. broadcast by radio and television. Thousands of East Berliners, disbelieving their luck, rushed to the border checkpoints. Picture this: crowds of people surging toward the wall, and at the crossings, confused border guards with no orders. They frantically called superiors, but nobody wanted to take responsibility for bloodshed. The tension reached a breaking point. And then, at that critical moment, when a tragedy seemed imminent, the commander of the Bornholmer Strasse checkpoint, Harald Jäger, made a historic decision. He simply opened the gate.
Wow! Can you imagine what happened that night? Thousands of East Germans flooded across the border like a river bursting its dam. People cried, laughed, hugged strangers. West Berliners greeted them with flowers and champagne. People climbed atop the wall, danced, and chipped away pieces with hammers and chisels. The Mauerspekte, the wall peckers. This symbol of oppression, this miniature iron curtain, crumbled under the surge of popular will, ignited by a single misplaced word.
And then, a new era began. The fall of the Berlin Wall became the symbol of the end of the Cold War. Germany reunified in 1990. The Soviet bloc began to disintegrate. The world, divided for decades, started to reform. But it wasn't just a celebration. The wall's legacy proved far more complex. Many in the West feared a new, unified Germany. In the East, many felt their identity, their hard-won heritage, was being swallowed by Western history. This division, which predated the wall's fall, didn't vanish. Today, we see its echoes: the rise of populism, far-right parties gaining ground, especially in former East German states. People feel alienated, forgotten. The irony is striking. A wall built as an anti-fascist rampart eventually became a commercialized commodity, its fragments sold worldwide. And the date, November 9th, carries dark connotations too: the Kristallnacht pogroms of 1938. This might explain why Germany avoids making November 9th a national holiday.
And here, history presents us with a paradox. Karl Marx said, "All that is solid melts into air." He was describing the dynamism of capitalism. Yet the fall of the wall, preceding capitalism's hegemony, followed by efforts to preserve, even sacralize the memory of division. That's a paradox worthy of his words. In the 21st century, when the supposed leader of the free world rises to power, vowing to build a new wall, we see just how unstable any seemingly fixed situation can be. So what does this story teach us? Firstly, never underestimate the power of words, especially when spoken by an official on live television. Secondly, sometimes the most insignificant events can trigger global changes, the butterfly effect in action. And thirdly, even the most unshakable structures can fall. The Berlin Wall seemed eternal, but it crumbled in a single night. History shows us that change is the only constant. And even in the 21st century, in a world that should be more open, walls, both physical and mental, continue to emerge. Our task is to remember the lessons of the past, to avoid repeating mistakes, and to strive always for peace and freedom.